Hello lovely people and welcome back to my channel and to this probably impatiently awaited by you review of the Pat McGrath foundation and powder that I picked up approximately 2 weeks ago when it launched. I actually picked up mine from Selfridges. Since recently we have access to Pat McGrath products via Selfridges. When I mean we, I mean here in Europe, which eliminates immediately the import and custom taxes for me. So I'd rather order from Selfridges. The prices are slightly more expensive than the Pat McGrath website, obviously because you have to account for those custom fees, but I still feel like it's cheaper, especially when you order expensive products and the customs quickly become quite expensive if you are ordering something big from her website. Selfridges has an option where if you pay one times 10 euros, they basically ship for you for free for the rest of the year. So if you start in March until March the year after, you can basically order anything you want and they will deliver it for you for free after you paid that initial, shipping cost of 10 euros. Sorry for going on this tangent about where I ordered it from. I just wanted to let you know, if you're in Europe, you might want to consider ordering from Selfridges because I feel like it is the easier way to go. So I'm going to start with what's probably on everyone's mind and what's actually a question that I'm pretty sure I'm going to receive if I don't address it. So is this foundation worth it? And I feel like this whole discussion about whether it's worth it is going to be completely pointless unless you put it in the context of, is luxury makeup worth to you? Because I feel like if we're going to talk about the Pat McGrath foundation, you need to only compare it to other luxury items and to other high-end foundations. You cannot compare the Pat McGrath foundation to a Maybelline foundation. You can obviously compare them in terms of how they perform, how they last on your skin, how they look on your skin, that kind of spiel, of course. But the whole point of whether it's worth picking this up versus a Maybelline foundation, in my opinion, is like comparing pears and apples. You can't compare them because they are two completely different categories. From my perspective, I have really been enjoying luxury makeup. I don't only buy luxury makeup, but a lot of the makeup that I have been enjoying, especially in the past year, has been luxury makeup, because while I think you can find real gems in the drugstore, I also think that sometimes you pay for the quality of a certain product. You pay for the packaging, you pay for the presentation, you pay for the performance, you pay for the superior formula, you pay for the more expensive ingredients. So we can, bullshit around it all we want. But in the end of the day, a luxury product is a luxury product because something more has gone into it. I'm not saying you cannot find splendid products in the drugstore or even in the mid-tier range of makeup, but I'm saying that for me personally, I'm in a financial situation where every now and then I can afford a luxury product, I enjoy luxury products, and for me it's worth it. Which is why I've been purchasing so many Pat McGrath products in the past year, because to me they're worth it. Let's not forget, Pat McGrath is a luxury brand, you guys. It is not even a mid-tier brand. You cannot even compare Pat McGrath products to Too Faced or Urban Decay because Pat McGrath is still more expensive than those. It is a luxury brand. So let's close this discussion already now by me telling you to think about it very carefully. Do you have luxury makeup? Do you enjoy luxury makeup? And do you think luxury makeup is worth it to you? And if that is the case, I think we can compare the Pat McGrath foundation to other luxury foundations. With that out of the way, let's just move on to the first impression and review part of this video. I did actually film the first time that I used the foundation and the powder because I feel like first impressions are sometimes so genuine that I feel like you can never fake a first impression. So I am going to now leave you with the first impression of this foundation, where I applied it for the first time and actually tested it in the beginning of the day, and I came back in the end of the day to show you how it looks like. And then I'm going to come back in the end of the video to tell you my final thoughts. We're going to talk a little bit more about the ingredients, what I picked up, why I picked it up, the different ways that I've tried wearing the foundation, and what I liked the most. Alrighty, you guys, for my first try of the foundation, I'm going to approach this as any other foundation. I'm not going to use a primer. I use my skincare as a primer, and I'm just going to go straight into the foundation and then into the powder. The foundation comes in the most luxurious little black box here with Mother Pat's logo on it. I'm not sure I'm going to keep it, but it is a very luxurious presentation of the product. And then the bottle itself, of course, is an epitome of luxury. Yesterday I tried the foundation just a little bit to see whether the color matches me well, and I must say probably in the winter it will match me a little bit better, but I think in the winter it will be perfect for me. So let's give this a try, shall we? So I squirted this much out, which is for me quite a huge amount. And as you can see now I'm a little bit darker. So I do think this is going to look a little bit right on me right now. I am normally in the summer C3 in MAC Face and Body, and that is the only foundation that I tend to use in the summer. But because I don't think this is... Ooh, this is quite light. Oh well, let's see. So I'm applying it with my sponge because I do apply all of my foundations with a sponge. I don't like to use brushes. And I know Mother Pat uses her fingers, so I might give that a try at some point. But generally speaking, not a huge fan of using my fingers to apply face products, except for skincare. Alright. I think I can get away with this because... Can I get away with it? Clearly not my shade right now. This applied really beautifully though. It blended into the skin really easily. It provided a medium coverage. I do really like how the foundation applied, you guys. I have to say the finish is more like a demi-matte. It's not dewy and it's not matte, but it looks really, really nice. The powder also comes in a beautiful box like this, which I was trying to demolish yesterday, trying to open it from here before I realized that Mother Pat has thought about everything, and it just opens easily like this. So let's get into the powder. The powder made a huge mess when I opened it, by the way, because there was like a little sticker, and when I removed the sticker, there is a sifter, but like pff, there was a huge explosion of powder. Anywho, I am in the shade light because I don't think medium or anything deeper would ever work on me. This is the shade of the powder, and the way I'm going to apply the powder is the way I like to apply my loose powders the most, which is with a very large fluffy brush like this. And I'm gonna basically go around mostly my more problematic areas, which is my area here with a lot of like pores which really need to be blurred. I am looking pretty flawless right now, you guys. I'm gonna come up close and personal to show you, but I'm feeling really, really fancy. This is how it's looking right now. I'm not wearing any like face makeup or my lipstick, so I'm not fully glammed yet. Only my eye makeup is on, but I think this is looking really nice. It feels really nice. It's not like there is no stick to it. It just feels like my skin, but better. Just popping in full face to let you know that the rest of my face makeup applied really well. I didn't have any problems applying like blush, highlighter, bronzer, that kind of thing, and I think the foundation looks really flawless. It didn't cling on to any dry patches. It's not accentuating anything that it shouldn't accentuate. It's looking pretty flawless. I am back. It is now 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I applied the makeup around 10:30 I want to say, so it's been a significant amount of hours. The foundation held up really well. I got the impression that it's a foundation that has like a bit more of like a dewy kind of finish, so it would probably not be very suitable for people with very oily skin, but I don't find that my skin is very oily lately, so I think I thought I could pull it off, and I did pull it off because I don't see any breakup. So I did see like tiny little breakups on my forehead and a little bit on my chin like 2 hours ago or so. I hadn't blotted, I hadn't done anything. Sometimes it happens to me that if I don't apply enough powder, even my most long-wearing foundations tend to like make those little breakups here and there. But other than that, the foundation looks flawless. It still looks absolutely beautiful. Hopefully my camera is gonna focus. You can see everything is looking just peachy. So first impression, and just applying the foundation as I normally would, it looks beautiful. It holds up very, very well. I have to say also the shade now, I don't feel like it's too light for me, maybe because I have like blush and bronzer and that kind of thing on, but I really don't feel like there's anything negative I can say about this foundation at this point. I'm sorry. So I gather from the first impression portion of this video, you guys can already guess that I actually really like this foundation. So let's start with the why I didn't pick up the primer. I did not pick up the primer because when I was reading the ingredient list, it really seemed to me like that is just a hyaluronic acid based skincare type of product, and it's a silicone based primer, and I no longer use silicone based primers because I feel like on my somewhat oily skin they tend to make foundations slip. And also I found out that if I have a very good like blurring powder. Powder basically does the same in the end anyway. So I no longer use a foundation primer, and just to let you know, the primer that I use currently is my moisturizer from Paula's Choice, and the one that I have in the moment is this one. This is the Essential Glow Moisturizer with kiwi and licorice with broad spectrum SPF 30. It looks like this. This is the mini size, which is why it looks so small. I've been using this pretty much as my glowy primer. The other product that I use as a primer, which is also not a primer, is the MAC Strobe Cream, which looks like this. This is also a mini size, and mine is in the shade Pink Light. I'm going to start with the foundation, you guys. So the foundation comes in this absolutely splendid packaging in this box, which opens like this, and you can put your foundation in like this. That is just luxury and decadence Pat McGrath style. I love it. I think the packaging and the presentation on this is absolutely stunning. The bottle is hefty. It has this beautiful frosted finish to it. The lid gives me really like vintage makeup vibes. I really like it. It has a pump. I got mine in the shade Light 5. Now I feel like for me that would be the perfect shade, especially in the winter. I think now it's just a tad too light for me, but if I bronze and I put my like blush and stuff like that, I don't really feel like you can tell that there's much of a difference between my face and the rest of my body. Yes, my face is like a tad lighter than the rest of my body because it's summer right now, but I do prefer to buy my foundations in my winter shade because that is the shade I wear throughout most of the year. This is a foundation with a very medium coverage. I would not call this foundation sheer because for me, I don't feel like this foundation is sheer at all. I think you can maybe use a very small amount and have it apply very sheerly, but I feel like this foundation applies in a medium coverage and it can probably be built to full coverage. I don't like to wear anything full coverage, so for me medium coverage is perfect. I really enjoy the finish of the foundation because it has a very natural finish to it. I wouldn't say it's a matte foundation, but I also wouldn't call it a dewy foundation, so I would just say it just blends into your skin very nicely, and when you apply it, it has sort of like this beautiful natural glow that your skin would have after you have applied your moisturizer, so I wouldn't say it's on one end of the spectrum or the other. I've worn this foundation over my moisturizer only, and I have to tell you that is the way that I like it the most. I have tried it once over top of the MAC Strobe Cream and I feel like it was just a little bit too much glowy over glowy, and I think that the foundation broke up a little bit on my forehead, especially more like faster than it would have otherwise. So I do think for me personally the strobe cream is not an option because it's just too much dewy on dewy. Another thing that I tried, because I heard from people that it's something you can do to have your foundation last longer or have it have a higher coverage, is applied over the powder. So one of the days I actually applied the powder, then I applied the foundation, and then I applied the powder again, and I did not like this either because I feel like it made the foundation way too heavy and way too cakey looking for me, and I just was not enjoying my foundation that day. I like this foundation most over top of my moisturizer, and that way I feel like it looks the most natural and it lasts the longest on me. I have not really had any issues with this foundation not lasting well on me, even though it's a more natural, like dewy type of foundation. It doesn't really break up on my skin, it doesn't look cakey, it doesn't look weird, it doesn't gather into any like weird spots, it doesn't sit on in like it doesn't cling to dry patches, and it doesn't gather in my pores weirdly. So I have to say it is a very effortless foundation. The other three high-end foundations that I have at the moment are the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light, the Hourglass Stick Foundation, and the Hourglass Vanish Liquid Foundation. And I have to say that of all the three, I feel like this reminds me the most of the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light Foundation in terms of the fact that it's a very effortless foundation with a very like medium coverage, which leaves you with a very natural looking skin. Now, like I said, the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light was discontinued, and unfortunately they have changed the formula. Well, it wasn't discontinued, they've changed the formula, which in my mind is they have discontinued my favorite foundation. So I feel like for me this is a great dupe for that foundation, albeit more expensive. So honestly, if the original Double Wear Light foundation was still available and I had to choose between this one and that foundation, I would choose for the Double Wear Light because it basically gives me the same result but cheaper. So in that respect, I think this foundation is less worth it to me than the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light. But because Double Wear Light doesn't exist anymore, I do think this was a great dupe for me to find, and I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm not really going to talk much about the ingredients of this foundation because, you guys, I am not someone who formulates makeup or cosmetics. The only thing I can tell you is that I noticed that one of the top ingredients in this foundation is alcohol. It stands right here, which disappointed me a little bit, and I must tell you, if it were any other brand and I had seen that there is alcohol in the formula, I would not have bought this foundation. I don't know, I trust Mother Pat that she knows what she's doing, and alcohol is there for a reason. Something that I forgot to mention, this is not the first time that Pat has participated in the creation of a lovely foundation. If you guys have your Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk foundation, I don't have that foundation, I've never used it, but I've been very curious about it. Pat is behind that foundation as well. I think this foundation fits perfectly with her makeup line because it is a very appropriate foundation to use on the runway. She's an editorial runway type of makeup artist, and these people don't use heavy cakey foundations. Heavy and cakey foundations, I feel like, are something very exclusive to Instagram and that new YouTube culture of like piling up more makeup. So in that respect, I would say the Pat McGrath Sublime Perfection foundation is very much on brand, and I would not have expected anything different in terms of formula and foundation. I think this is a lovely foundation. In terms of shade matching, I do recommend, if you have a Sephora around you and you can go and actually swatch the foundations and find your perfect match on the spot, do that, because online remains more difficult. I do think that she described the shades of the foundation with like the undertones, the light, medium, that peel. I do feel like she described the foundations well enough for you to be able to choose something if you know your skin tone already quite well. And because the foundation has a more medium coverage to it, I think plus minus one shade you can probably get away with it. In conclusion, I love the foundation. If you enjoy luxury makeup and luxury foundations and you dig that kind of finish, like the more natural looking finish, then I think you're going to enjoy this. Let's quickly move on to the powder. I have less thoughts about the powder. So the one that I picked up is in the shade Light 1 because I didn't feel like any of the other shades would actually match me. In terms of packaging, this doesn't feel like super luxurious. Definitely doesn't feel as luxurious as the bottle itself. The powder is nice, you guys. It's a nice finishing blurring powder. The shade that I picked up, by the way, looks a little bit like it has somewhat pinkish undertones to it, and I was a little afraid that it would look weird on me, but essentially when you apply it on your skin, it's a translucent powder. You can't really see much. It applies beautifully, it doesn't look cakey. I don't feel like it makes my skin dry, or I think it's a lovely powder. That being said, I was a little bit disappointed that the first ingredient on this powder is talc, because I feel like most high-end powders have mica and silica predominantly in their formulations. Again, I'm not a cosmetic chemist, I don't know, but I felt like for such an expensive powder, perhaps we could have skipped talc as the first ingredient. Just saying. I've used this powder both with a sponge and with a fluffy powder brush, and I feel like it applies beautifully both ways. I am going to say this, I bought this powder because it's Pat McGrath. I was not planning on ever buying loose finishing powders again, because I do feel like they're messier and I don't like the mess that they make. I'm definitely going to use it up, but I wanted to tell you guys that if I am to compare my Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder to the Pat McGrath Loose Powder, I would choose the ambient lighting powders any day over this, because the packaging on this is stunning. It just feels luxurious. This doesn't feel super luxurious to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm like a spoiled princess, but I don't feel like this is very luxurious packaging, whereas the Hourglass powder, you feel like you're holding decadence in your hands. It's a pressed powder, it's a gorgeous finish, it looks very like natural on the skin, and I like these powders more than I like the Pat McGrath Loose Powder. So with the knowledge that I have now, I would definitely not repurchase the powder. I think someday, eventually, if I ran out of all of the foundations that I bought this year, which will probably be in like 5 years, but when I do run out of them and I'm still in the position to buy luxury makeup, I might reconsider buying the foundation again, but I would not repurchase the powder, because personally I do not like anymore the mess that loose powders create. And I just feel like something like the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder feels more luxurious, is less messy to use, and has a stunning, beautiful finish to it. So if I were to choose again, I would only buy the foundation. Okay, you guys, with this I'm going to wrap up the review of the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection foundation and powder from Pat McGrath. I hope this was useful to you. I'm actually very curious which ones of you already picked up these products and what you thought of them, because I'm very curious to compare notes. I don't think I've seen like a negative review of this foundation yet. I haven't really watched that many of them, but from what I gathered so far, most people really enjoyed both the foundation and the powder. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!